So we're here today installing the brand new TruCedar steel siding from Quality Edge with the Sunmaster 50 finish. The TruCedar color we're installing today is Rocky Tundra. As you can see, it's a nice muted gray wood grain. I don't know how well, close up of this you can see the wood grain patterns here, and it looks just like stained real cedar. But what we're going to show you here right now is this detail on the bottom of this bay window. You notice we have a couple of 22.5-degree angles right here. Now the manufactured corner post that comes from Quality Edge for TruCedar steel siding comes with a 90-degree bend here. But because we only have a 22.5-degree angle, what we've done is opened up the outside corner of this post so that it will fit perfectly on this corner. And then we can fit our two runs of siding in from each side. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to install it after I've opened it up. I'm going to nail it at the top first, and I'll put a level on each side to make sure that I'm square coming down. We're starting at the bottom of this wall here, and this is my 4-inch steel starter strip. And as you can tell, if you look over here, here's the bottom of my framing. But my starter strip is actually lower, so what I've done is I've dropped the bottom edge of my starter strip 1 inch below the top of the concrete wall. And I do that so that water coming down the siding can't make its way sideways across the top of the wall and get into the basement. So by coming down over the top of the concrete wall 1 inch, which I'm allowed to do because I have such a nice thick starter strip here, I can create a drip cap effect at the top of the concrete wall. So I've installed this level 1 inch down, put a nail every 12 inches or so. As you notice, I've got my J channels in place already on either side. I've just run a short section of J channel right over here so that I can feed it into one side and bring it down inside both pieces of J channel like this. Bring it down below the siding, and then I catch that starter strip with the bottom of the siding panel, just pull it up snug, and now it's ready to nail. So this is the installation technique you use for steel whenever you're in tight places. See, when I get over here, in this little area too, I'm going to have to feed the panel from the top or from the bottom because I won't be able to fold it, if you will, to get it into the J channel on each side. Another feature of the Sunmaster 50 finish on the new TruCedar steel siding from Quality Edge is that, unlike PVC, it's got a hard surface. So when I lock two panels together, the panels are still able to slide back and forth once they're locked. The old PVC finish was so sticky that once it was locked in place, the panel would not slide back and forth like this. So this is another ease of install that's a feature of the new Sunmaster 50 finish from Quality Edge. So you notice here just a minute ago I slid this panel down through the two pieces of J channel on both ends. I slid it down past the nail flange of the panel below. Once I got the bottom edge of the panel below, I pulled it back up and it kind of popped in there. Now it's in there so snug I can actually let go of it to reach my hammer and my nail to fasten it. So what I got, I'm working on a real tight area right here next to my chimney, and I got an outside corner of the house right here. So I'm just running about little 3-foot pieces in here. I just want to point out a couple of things. First of all, you can see how we've floated the J channel off the house, and that's because there was a little concave area here where there was some water damage. So we ran this J channel straight down next to the chimney, and because this steel siding is so nice and rigid, we're just going to be able to float the panels right across that gap and straighten the wall back out. The advantage of steel is that it's nice and rigid, and you can flatten out a wall that's got indentations or areas where it's popping out. So I'm just going to slide this panel down here, start at the top, feed it into both pieces of J channel, and the reason I can cut it that tight again is because remember, steel siding only expands and contracts 1/16 of an inch, for every 100-degree swing in temperatures, vinyl will expand and contract about 3/4 of an inch. So I get down here to the top of my last piece, I just pop it over that nail flange like that, and then I bring it up and let it snap into place. Once I've got it in place, I can actually let go of it. I've got my little magnetic torpedo level here, so I can check it for level. If I need to make any kind of little adjustments here or there, I can even tilt it side to side and keep it locked in. So what I'm going to do is make a slight adjustment here, drop this outside corner a little bit to get it level. Make sure I'm nailing into a stud. And there we go. What I'm going to show you here is how to cut a panel with a radial arm saw. One thing to remember is you always want to cut the panel with the painted side, this finished side, down. And the reason for that is because the shards of metal that come flying off this blade when we cut through it with a steel siding blade, it will burn the paint if it lands on the surface of the panel before the shard cools down. So by flipping the panel upside down, all those shards will just land on the back side. It won't be on the finished side. So I've marked my length. I'll go ahead and give myself a line. So what I'm cutting here with a radial arm saw with a steel siding blade in it. Another way you can cut this panel is with a guillotine, they call it, which is it's like a giant paper cutter where you lay the panel in. You can bring this lever down with a sharp edge on it, and it'll cut the panel that way. You can also, just like with a radial arm saw, you can make angle cuts. You can do the same thing with the guillotine. They have the adjustment on them to make angle cuts. And last of all, there's always the trusty tin snips. That's another way you can cut this panel. It's a 29 gauge material, so it's easily cuttable by hand with the snips. Well, as you can see, we've worked our way up to the window here, and I got my J channel already installed on this side of the window. And as you can see, I put a little piece of flashing tape right here at the bottom of my J channel, and the reason I did that is so that the water running down this J channel, which I know you can't see on the camera, the water running down this J channel will come out on top of this piece of siding, and it'll come out of the weep holes in the bottom of this panel. What that does is it prevents water coming down the J channel from getting behind the siding. So I've cut this to fit, and as you can see, I've cut it so that my joint is going to be about halfway under the window, which will make it the least visible. We can fit it under the bottom here. Slide it up inside. And it's ready to nail. Because we're not going to wrap this brick mold around these windows, we're just going to put J channel right up against it. I'm going to put I'm putting a Beta clear sealant in the corner here so that I can nest the back of my J channel into the sealant. And that'll prevent any water from getting in between the J channel and the wood brick mold. If I was going to wrap the wood channel, the wood casing around the window, I wouldn't need to do this. So as you can see, the bottom of my J channel, I've cut my back flap right there. That's going to fit right into this little slot here. So I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to feed that in. That way the water coming down the channel doesn't get behind the J channel on the bottom. So I'm going to feed that in first. You see I got my window tape that brings it out into the weep hole of the siding panel that's going to go on next. And I just push it into my caulk. And I'm ready to fasten it. What we have here is old board and batten that came off this wall. In fact, you can see the paint lines where the old battens were taken off. And we're going to reinstall the TruCedar board and batten panel with the Rocky Tundra finish and the Sunmaster 50 paint. Now what a lot of guys would do here is they would take J-channel, put it on top of this brick ledge, and then just set the board and batten panels in the J-channel. There's two reasons why I would rather use a brick ledge trim like this piece right here instead of J-channel. One is that if I put J-channel here, the J-channel pocket and the two battens create a little area where the debris is going to collect. And over time, you even have plants growing out of those sections because there's so much accumulation of rotting leaves and debris that it just becomes a mess. The other reason is because real wood battens don't have the face of the J-channel. So by using this brick ledge trim, I can just set my board and batten panels right on here. I don't have a pocket that accumulates debris, and it looks like real wood board and batten. So first I'll take this, I'll put a bead of sealant on top of this old brick. I'll set my brick ledge trim right on top of that, and then we'll just fasten it into the wall. Now if we were not going on top of brick here, if this was just the bottom of a wall, we have what we call rat guard. A rat guard trim is a trim that just comes down and out and then returns back to the wall at a 45-degree angle. Does the very same thing as this brick trim. It finishes off the bottom of the batten panel, but it doesn't have an accumulation area where debris can collect. So it's late Friday afternoon, and we are ready to pack it in. It's been a tough week, but we love hanging Sunmaster 50 TruCedar steel siding from Quality Edge. What we're going to do here is put on one more piece of board and batten before we close it up. But before I do that, I just want to point out a couple things. You remember earlier I talked about the advantage of not putting J-channel on the bottom when you run board and batten siding. You know, the debris gets in there and clogs. Plus it doesn't look like real board and batten because you see the J-channel. A third advantage is look how easy it is to install a panel. All I do is slide it up into the top, push it up over my drip cap or my rodent guard, snap it into place, and I'm ready to nail it. Whereas if I had a J-channel here and a J-channel there, I'd have to fit the panel in between them, and then I'd have to compromise my fit on the top or the bottom because I have to decide where I want it to fit the best. Here I can get it to fit snug both top and bottom. One last thing I want to show you. And this is a quality installation trick with Sunmaster 50 TruCedar steel siding for Quality Edge. As we came around this window, you'll notice that the batten didn't land on the edge of the window. See, over here we had a batten right in my J-channel, but over here I didn't have a batten. So all we did is we just oversized the panel and bent it out 3/4 of an inch. It gives us a nice straight edge inside that J-channel. Plus, when you look inside, you can see the wood grain finish Sunmaster 50 from Quality Edge. Have a great weekend. This is a joint in my siding panel. As you can see, we're getting near the peak of the roof, and the next panel we'll actually be able to do with one full piece without a joint. But right here I don't have quite enough panel to make it all the way to the chimney, so I'm always taking a factory edge and putting that on top. That way you get a nice straight cut, but you also get the rust protection at the edge that you get with the factory die when it makes the cutoff there. And notice, you can always tell when you have a factory edge because you're going to have that 1-inch notch right there out of the nail flange. In most cases, this would be a field cut, which means you wouldn't have the factory notch. But because this was a full panel also, we also have the factory notch right there. So all I'm going to do is lay this, slide it into the J-channel first, then come up, hook it in at the bottom, and as you can see I got an inch space here between my nail flange because I got a factory cut to a factory cut. If that was a field cut to a factory cut, there would only be 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch gap right there. That's all you need for expansion and contraction. I'm notching out the bottom of this panel right where it's going to fit over this window up here that we'll get a shot for you in a minute. I only need to take out barely an inch, so I'm just going to do this with a snips. You can also do this with an electric shears. You can do it with a miter saw and run it horizontally. There's a lot of different ways to make this cut, but I just thought I'd do it with the snips for the sake of not having a lot of background noise. Notice when I make my cuts, I don't bring the shears all the way to the point. That keeps the bottom edge of this panel from getting too wavy. Every time you run that shears all the way to the end, you put stress on the metal and causes edge wave. We're also going to save this piece that I'm cutting out, and we're going to put that behind the bottom of this siding panel so it pushes the panel out to the inside face of the J-channel that's at the top of the window. It helps keep the bottom of the siding straight, and also keeps it from getting concave on the wall. So we'll bring both these pieces up the ladder.